following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
I call this October 27th council meeting to order. Unfortunately, Mayor Weinbrecht could not be with us this evening, so I will be sitting in his place. And our town attorney, Miss Lisa Glover, also could not be with us this evening. And joining us for, I believe, the first time at the council dais is Mr. Nick Yates from the attorney's office. So welcome. Glad to have you.
Great to be here.
We'll try to make it easy on you.
I appreciate that.
All right. At this point, I'll recognize Councilmember Smith for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. November is always kind of special. There's a lot of veterans activities going on, and there's a couple I'd like to share with you. One, Cary will be participating in Operation Greenlight by lighting up the Cary Arts Center from November 7th to November 13th. And we encourage citizens to get involved by learning more about Operation Greenlight and to get involved by putting a green light in one of their light bulbs. And again, Green Light is a national collaborative initiative to support military veterans as well as raise awareness about unique challenges that they face. This is a program that is going to be countywide, and our Wake County government is also going to be participating in this initiative. So, I appreciate you considering participating, and if you want more information, just go to wakegov.com/Operation Greenlight, and that will give you a lot of that information. Also, to let people know, especially the veterans, the annual Veterans Luncheon will occur on Friday, November 4th, and the size of the crowd already is we're going to hold that at Prestonwood Country Club. Registration ends tomorrow. On Friday, November 11th at 11 a.m., we encourage all citizens to join us at the Veterans Freedom Park for a ceremony honoring our veterans of all wars and conflicts. Now, this ceremony will feature remarks from Cary Town Council members as well as several guest speakers from local veterans organizations. The patriotic music will be from the Old North State Band, and interestingly, we will be dedicating a new Blue Star Memorial Garden at Veterans Freedom Park. So let's always keep in our hearts and our prayers our veterans. And if you now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And speaking of patriotism and freedom, we also have an election coming up on November 8th that I'm sure you all have probably heard something about. So you can now vote early or vote on Election Day. At this point, we've reached the portion of the meeting where we need to adopt an agenda so we can actually have a meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We are now at recognitions, reports, and presentations, and we will be presenting the Cary Band Day Proclamation. If Mr. Foster and the drum majors will join me at the podium. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. We have lots of traditions here in Cary, and one of our most treasured is always Cary Band Day. It's been going on now, I think, 63 years?
63rd, yeah.
Incredible. Love it. It's always exciting. I would encourage everybody to attend. Great music, great time. The proclamations always have a lot of whereases in them, as we all know. And I saw Miss Bush do something really cool at the Heart of Cary meeting, where she kind of got the crowd involved in the reading of the proclamation. So I would encourage everybody here in the audience, all our staff, everybody watching, that every time we get to a point in the proclamation where there is a whereas, you all help with that and say, whereas. Trust me, you'll like it. So this is a proclamation recognizing October 29th, 2022 as the 63rd Cary Band Day. Whereas the Cary High School Band has proven its musical and marching abilities throughout the years by its continuing achievements of both national and regional recognition for its accomplishments. Whereas members of the Cary High School Band have brought much honor to Cary and its citizens while also maintaining high scholastic aptitudes. Whereas music plays an increasingly important role in our world today. It is the language of all people and one of the greatest forces in creating peace and harmony. Whereas 2022 marks the 101st anniversary of the Cary Band, which started in 1921. Whereas the band has been proud to host for the past 64 years the greatest celebration of marching band and music education excellence in North Carolina. Now, therefore, I, Don France, on behalf of Harold Weinbrecht Jr., Mayor of Cary, North Carolina, and on behalf of the entire Cary Town Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 29th, 2022, as the 63rd Cary Band Day, and I urge all of our citizens of Cary and the surrounding areas to join in honoring and supporting this long-standing Cary tradition. Proclaim this 27th day of October, 2022.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor for us, and also it's really exciting. We've got 35 bands from all over the state coming here. We're actually hosting as well, the United States Marine Corps Commandant's Own will be coming in here and performing twice for us as well. We're excited. We're going to have about 3,000 kids on campus. It's going to be crazy. Sorry that the parking isn't going to be so great, but you know Cary High School. That's 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. We're really excited about it, and we have great weather coming up, so we hope to see you guys coming out on Saturday. Thank you.
Wonderful.
We've got our 3 drum majors here. We have senior Maria Almado, we've got senior Sierra Reed Aker, and we also have junior Will Dunning. And they're our drum majors for this year.
Awesome.
Congratulations. They're the ones in charge of everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for being here. Looking forward to it on Saturday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, at this point, I'll turn it over to Manager Sean Stiegel for our manager's update.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem France and Council. I want to begin by congratulating Cary Chief Information Officer Nicole Coughlin, there she is, for her appointment by the United States Department of Commerce to the first Internet of Things Advisory Board.
Woohoo!
Nicole is one of only 16 experts chosen from across the nation to advise the Internet of Things Federal Working Group on topics such as smart transportation technologies, augmented logistics and supply chains, environmental monitoring, and healthcare. We're very proud of the global reputation Nicole is building for herself and the positive connection this has for our organization and Cary as a whole. Congratulations, Nicole. Switching gears, the weather forecast is calling for rain on Monday, which could dampen the trick-or-treating fun on Halloween, but have no fear because we have lots of events planned for this weekend. There's a Zombie Palooza tomorrow night at the Cary, as well as the Pumpkin Flotilla at Bond Park. And on Saturday, the Great Pumpkin Carve downtown will be followed by an outdoor screening of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. There'll also be spooky stories at the Page Walker. And not to be outdone, our Cary Teen Council is once again hosting their haunted house at Herb Young Community Center both Friday and Saturday nights. Details on these activities and more are available on the town's website. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Stiegel.
Thank you.
Fun times in Cary. All right, we're now at the Public Speaks Out portion of our meeting. Instructions for speaking at this forum are included on the online and printed agenda, and there were 3 opportunities for folks to participate in Public Speaks Out, either through written comments, calling in, or attending in person. If you are here in person and would like to speak, please take a seat in the rows over here to my right that are shown as reserved and now being shined with a search beacon light. Public Speaks Out speakers have up to 3 minutes each for their comments, and speakers may speak on any town-related topic as long as it's not a public hearing item. For that, you would get 5 minutes. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, and we're not trying to be rude, but just trying to be fair to all speakers. There is a timer at the podium here. When you see the green light, all's good. When you have 30 seconds left, the light turns to yellow, and when your time is up, a flashing red light will appear. I'd like to thank everyone in the audience for being here and speaking, but also recognizing that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud or make remarks from your seat or anything else that might distract from this meeting. I'll now open Public Speaks Out and call on our clerk, Ms. Johnson, to read any written comments that may have come in.
No written comments and no call-in speakers, but we do have 2 registered speakers.
Okay.
And the first one is Mike Curran.
All right, we'll invite Mr. Kerm to the podium.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Mike Curran. I'm the founder of the nonprofit Triangle Aquatic Center here in Cary. And I want to take just a couple minutes tonight to introduce you to our new executive director, Derek Wall. Also, update you on some of our growth and how we're impacting Cary residents here. We completed a national search over the course of a year and was fortunate enough to find a local person to fill the executive director position. Derek was born in Raleigh, graduated from Campbell University with a business and economics degree. Derek was one of TAC's first employees way back in 2007, and he actually managed the facility for the first 5 years. Then he started a pool management company that ended up growing to be one of the largest pool management companies here in the Triangle, and he recently sold it, which gave him an opportunity to work with us. Derek is married to Ashley Twitchell, who is a 3-time Olympic swimmer and sits on the USA Board of Directors board. Derek and Ashley just welcomed their first child, a son, Lachlan William Wall. Derek's an avid swimmer, and his knowledge and experience in swimming both locally and nationally is exceptional. We're excited about his leadership and driving the TAC mission forward for the next 10 years. On June 27th, believe it or not, TAC turns 20 years old, and tomorrow the aquatic facility celebrates 15 years of service, providing year-round public access to aquatic health, safety, and competition programming. TAC is built on a 21.5-acre aquatic campus behind the old Carytown Center Mall and now directly opposite Fenton development. When the 72,000 square foot facility opened in 2007, it cost $22.5 million to build, and it included a 50-meter pool, a 10-lane, 25-yard pool, and a warm water instruction pool. 2 years ago, we completed our first expansion of $4 million to add a 5,000 square foot fitness center, a 5,000 square foot atrium off the Spectator Stadium, and a badly needed 200 space parking lot. 3 months ago, we completed our second expansion, which was $6 million, and that included another 50-meter pool, utility, bathrooms, and an extension of the road that opened up another 5 acres, so hopefully in the future we can continue to build additional pools. Cary residents are the primary benefactor of TAC's aquatic programming. For example, 74.3% of the 13,000 swim lessons we do every year are for Cary residents. 61.1% of the 1,085 swimmers on the swim team are all from Cary as well. I'd like to thank the many council members and staff for their long-term support of TAC. Mayor Weinbrecht, who's not here tonight, actually spoke at our grand opening of the new pool a few months ago. Jack was there in support, as well as Rob Wilson, who's our liaison with the planning department. He just does a great job for us. Doug McCraney sits on our board and provides great feedback. Thanks to Sean, we get an annual sponsorship from the town that helps promote our programs, and all of our programs are on the Cary Town website, and we get a lot of flow through that website for swim lessons and things like that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Curran, your time has expired.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate all the support, and hopefully we look forward to continuing to grow in the future.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on 20 years.
Thanks.
Our
Next registered speaker?
Yes, Beth Crompton.
Sorry, this is in relation to that. Am I supposed to be?
Then you'll wait till the public hearing, yes. So no other registered speakers, and we can
Okay.
call her back up.
At this point, I would invite anybody else who would like to speak at Public Speaks Out to approach the podium. Seeing no one, we'll close Public Speaks Out. And
She's speaking in public.
we are now at the consent agenda portion of tonight's meeting. For the benefit of the people watching on TV, I'll take a moment to review the consent agenda items, and just please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. Minutes, adjustments to the adopted meeting schedule, 22 REZ09, 3528 Optimist Farm Road, and the consistency statement, 22A06, 3528 Optimist Farm Road, Act 24 Land Development Ordinance Amendments pertaining to flood ordinance and environmental regulations, 21A19 Legacy Cary Annexation, the advanced purchase of vehicles, establish a special revenue fund to support the capital area metropolitan planning organization operations, bid award for the North Cary Water Reclamation Facility band screen replacement project, the FY 2022 Transportation Development Fee reimbursements, FY 2022 Annual Utility reimbursements, and property conveyance to Holly Springs. Would any council member like to pull any item from consent for discussion?
Motion to approve?
Have a motion to approve?
I'll just say that I raised a question to the mayor, but he's not here, about that property conveyance to Holly Springs that I didn't really get an answer to. I don't know if it's worth discussing or.
Well, I mean, there's some challenges with that site, and so they actually could have made a strong case to charge us to take it.
Okay.
So
I
we're
guess I won't
very
pull it.
pleased that they want it, and we're very happy to get
Okay.
rid of it.
Okay. In that case, I'll second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. All right, we are now at the public hearing portion of our meeting, and our first public hearing is item 5.1, 22 REZ 15, the Swift Creek Elementary School Renovation Replacement Act 30 Comprehensive Plan Amendment. We'll hear from our staff and then open the hearing, and then the hearing will be continued to the next council meeting because unfortunately we had a little snafu with the post office and not everybody that needed to be notified was notified. So to ensure that all parties were indeed notified as required by law and to do the right thing, we will continue this till November 17th. So at this point, I will turn it over to Senior Housing Planner Heather Wheelahan for their staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is the public hearing for 22 REZ 15, a request to rezone over 27 acres at 5701 and 5417 Tryon Road from the current zoning of Wake County Residential Watershed, R40W, to Cary zoning ONICU, Office and Institutional Conditional Use. This proposal is accompanied by Act 30, a comprehensive plan amendment to apply initial future growth framework designation to the eastern property and include adjacent sections of Tryon Road and Yates Mill Pond Road to the planned roadway widths map. The properties are located along Tryon and Yates Mill Pond Roads, just east of Campbell Road. And as you may recognize or recall from the annexation public hearing we held last month, this is Swift Creek Elementary School on Tryon Road. Swift Creek Elementary was originally built in 1930, and Wake County Public Schools has added on and renovated various parts of the building over the years. At this time, they're ready to completely redesign and rebuild the elementary school. This rezoning and the associated annexation would facilitate the new school and allow Wake County Public Schools to plan for a future facility by permitting access to Cary water and sewer. These properties are adjacent to the Cary-Raleigh annexation agreement boundary line. Per this agreement, and as shown on the map, properties to the north of the green line are in Raleigh's future annexation area. Properties to the south fall in the area eligible to be annexed into Cary. A public hearing on the proposed annexation was held in September, and action was deferred to correspond with this associated rezoning. The properties are also subject to the Swift Creek Land Management Plan. In the late 1980s and early 90s, Cary participated in a coordinated effort with Wake County and the cities of Raleigh, Apex, and Garner to develop the Swift Creek Land Management Plan. This plan manages development within the watershed to protect water quality, natural vegetation, and buffers. In 2019, Wake County initiated an amendment to the Swift Creek Land Management Plan that changed the land use classification for the 12 acres at 5417 Tryon Road from rural to new urban. Connection to municipal utilities is not permitted in the rural designation, but is permitted in the new urban classification. So amending the Swift Creek Land Management Plan was the first step toward rebuilding on this site and connecting to Cary utilities. This amendment was approved by Cary in 2021. It was also approved by Raleigh, Apex, Gardner, and Wake County. No changes to the current Swift Creek Land Management Plan are being proposed with this rezoning. These are views of the site in relation to Tryon Road and Yates Mill Pond Road. There are overhead power lines along the property frontage, and plans for utility installation will be evaluated in more detail during development plan review in coordination with Duke Energy providers. Cary's GIS maps indicate a small portion of the site's southwestern property boundary abuts a potential stream buffer. Determination will be made at the time of development plan review. Cary's planned roadway widths map does not include the Tryon Road and Yates Mill Pond Road street segments that front the two properties. The comprehensive plan amendment associated with this request will add these segments to our map. This section of Tryon Road is currently a 4-lane divided roadway with sidewalks on both sides within a 115-foot right-of-way. The proposed thoroughfare cross-section is a 6-lane median divided roadway with a 125-foot right-of-way. This section of Yates Mill Pond Road is currently a 2-lane divided roadway without sidewalks and is within a 95 to 105-foot right-of-way. The proposed thoroughfare cross-section is 4-lane median divided roadway with a 100 to 115-foot right-of-way. Typically, frontage improvements would be required to be provided by the applicant. However, since North Carolina state law requires either Cary or NCDOT to reimburse Wake County Public Schools for any such improvements, staff will investigate the need for road widening at the time of development plan review. If frontage improvements are necessary, staff will look for opportunities to complete these improvements in collaboration with Wake County Public Schools and NCDOT. Go Cary Route 1 serves Jones Franklin and Tryon Roads, approximately 1,500 feet west of the subject property. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan does not propose any parks or greenways within or adjacent to the site. The Walnut Street Streetside Trail is located approximately a quarter-mile west of the site. This streetside trail has connections to Spite Branch Trail and the proposed Campbell Greenway. The PRCR Master Plan proposes a future park approximately 0.7 miles to the west. Both properties are currently zoned Wake County Residential 40 Watershed, R40W. Wake County Schools proposes to rezone to ONICU, Office and Institutional Conditional Use, and Watershed Protection Overlay, Swift Creek Subdistrict. The applicant has proposed to limit development at 5701 Tryon Road to an elementary school use with a maximum capacity of 500 students, and limit development at 5417 Tryon Road to school, preschool, trade school, governmental office, public athletic field, library, community garden, concealed or stealth communications facility, or non-stealth communications facilities on a building or structure. Regardless of the ultimate use, development at the site may not exceed the traffic equivalent of a middle school with a maximum capacity of 400 students. As you can see, Cary's Future Growth Framework Map designation for the school site is Destination Center. The Future Growth Framework Map does not include the eastern property. Act 30, the Companion Comprehensive Plan Amendment, will apply initial development designation to 5417 Tryon Road. This amendment addresses a change in the comprehensive plan assumptions regarding development and utility provision at the edges of municipal boundaries. Additionally, the amendment is necessary to address the new opportunity of development for Wake County Public Schools facilities to serve our citizen population. We reviewed the Future Growth Framework designation for properties adjacent to the site, as well as the Swift Creek Land Management Plan and the Raleigh Comprehensive Plan. The proposed Future Growth Framework Map Destination Center designation would extend the existing Cary Community Plan designation and be compatible with the land use plan of the neighboring jurisdictions. Civic and institutional uses such as those included in this proposal are incidental use types and destination centers. And since these areas are on the easternmost edge of this destination center area, the uses proposed provide a good transition between the commercial centers and the adjacent residential neighborhoods. Act 30 will also amend Cary's planned roadway widths map to include the Tryon Road and Yates Mill Pond Road street segments that front these two properties. Work, shape, engage, and serve policies of the Imagine Cary Community Plan are most relevant to this request. The proposal furthers the work chapter by supporting a sustainable and diverse workforce and promoting high-quality education. In terms of the shape chapter, the proposal facilitates the redevelopment of an aging school and future Wake County school system facilities while capitalizing on existing nearby water and sewer and road infrastructure. Additionally, the proposed civic and institutional uses provide a good transition between the heart of the area's commercial centers and the adjacent residential neighborhoods. The Swift Creek Elementary School gymnasium was identified by Cary's Historic Preservation Commission as a property with potential historic interest. Cary's Historic Preservation staff coordinated a recent site visit with Wake County Public Schools and Capital Area Preservation to assess the building. The original 1930 school on this site, known as the Swift Creek Consolidated School, served African American students and has since been demolished. The gym, built in 1956, bears resemblance to other structures of the post-World War II era and has original brick, windows, floor, and trusses. Cary staff recently provided Wake County Schools with this assessment. Staff will continue to assess the historic significance and collaborate with Wake County Schools on potential preservation opportunities. We mailed public hearing notification to property owners within 800 feet of the subject site, and this exceeds both the state and Cary's LDO requirements. And I'll reiterate the note here that we will be opening the public hearing tonight and then continuing at the November council meeting to allow for remailing of some letters that were returned to us this week due to a printing error. Staff facilitated a virtual neighborhood meeting in July. 13 citizens attended. The questions or comments were regarding the annexation of the properties, potential addressing or street name changes, inquiring about the construction timeline, inquiring about watershed standards and well water, and the location of the school's water and sewer connection. Since the neighborhood meeting, we've had one email regarding sidewalk connections to the school and no calls. This concludes my presentation, and following the applicant's comments and the opening of the public hearing, I'm available to answer any questions. A representative from Wake County Public Schools is here this evening to speak with you.
Thank you, Ms. Willihan. Welcome, Ms. Parker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be before you again. Thank you so much. I always appreciate Heather's presentation. She takes everything I needed to say and puts it out there very cleanly and simply. I'm Betty Parker, Real Estate Services Senior Director for the Wake County Public School System. Just a few quick points. A school has been in this location since the 30s, and we recognize how educational facilities can be the pillar of a community, how around it community forms. And we're just so pleased to see how this area has continued to form and how it continues to be a great location for us to be able to instruct kids. Unfortunately, the facility is at the point where it needs to be replaced. We have done improvements over the years. We did a large building replacement in 1992, but we're now 30 years past that, and it's in poor condition. Also, our educational standards have changed dramatically to keep up with the learning environments that we see as our standard. So in order to provide an equitable opportunity for Cary's children, we need to bring this up to standard. Unfortunately, the size of the shape of this particular site makes it difficult to accommodate the school of the size that we need to meet the capacities. So for the last 3 years, we've been buying additional pieces of property, including that across the street, but most notably here, a 4-acre piece at the northwestern corner. With that purchase, we're now able to fit the full school program on here that we need. Unfortunately, although we all appreciate and like the gym and its historic value, there's not an opportunity to incorporate it from what we've seen so far and still be able to accommodate the full learning program. We've gotten the report within the last few days. I'm happy to share it with our planning folks. And if there are any opportunities to collaborate with third parties regarding the gym, to consider its relocation or rehabilitation, in the past, the board has always been willing to work if there's an historic group that's interested in working with us on that. I like the comments in the report. It can be easily rehabilitated. Unfortunately, ease, cost, and time don't always go together. But it's in its day. I've talked to a lot of people with grand memories about that. What we really feel strongly about with this elementary school replacement is the challenges it helps to address. This school is in dire need and it needs to be better for the kids, and that's good. But we're on a pump system for our sewer capacity that has come from Yates Mill Pond Elementary, picks up Swift Creek, and goes all the way to Jones Franklin. When we worked on the amendment for the Swift Creek Land Management Plan, we committed to reworking that so that once it reaches this facility, we'll now move westward to a Campbell Road connection, which will lighten the load on that Jones Franklin sewer pump station. So we think that's a benefit. Also, with the potential plans we have for an educational facility that would also access public utilities, you eliminate the potential number of septic systems that theoretically could be built within the watershed. So we think this is actually a lighter use on that particular part of the property. Probably the main challenge we've heard from everybody, and I think we all see when we drive down Tryon Road, is our parent queue traffic snarls that happen. The traffic backs up onto Tryon Road, and we're all concerned about its safety. When that school was built, parents didn't drive their children to work. Tryon Road wasn't as wide as it is now. There was a lot more opportunity. But with the change in culture comes these traffic standards. We work closely with DOT and your transportation staff to be sure that we build in on-site circulation of the links that the MSTA group at DOT require so that we can get parents off the roads quickly so that the backup happens on our campus. Our preliminary sketches are looking at 2 to 3 lanes wide in stacking that would occur on our site. So we feel very strongly that we are meeting or exceeding the standards that will come, and that should provide a huge and immediate difference. Obviously, the first 2 weeks of any school season, there's a little bit of a learning curve. But from an engineering standpoint, our traffic engineers have done what we can do to address that. Also, when this school was built, there were no stormwater control measures required at the time. So those will come back in. So that will be an environmental benefit, not just to the school site, but to the areas around it. So we feel like what we're bringing with this will be a community benefit on a number of levels. With the property on the east, I think I may have mentioned before, we had originally intended to consider placing an alternative learning program facility there, which is a facility that helps provide services and intervention through alternative learning programs to middle and high school special ed and regular ed students, where an alternative learning program is recommended. That would be a small school, only 200 students, with 100 middle school and 100 high school. So our intention was a small educational facility. But as we've continued to look at the needs, how we want to administer that program is still under scrutiny, so that's not final today. And we wanted to maintain flexibility so that if the Board of Education finds another program it thinks is more valuable, we can be very nimble and have this site prepared and ready to move forward with a suitable educational use for this area. With that, I'm going to stop because I know you've got more information than you can process. I'm happy to address any questions you may have to the best of my ability.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ms. Parker, and we may have questions for you here in a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. At this point, is that all from staff? Yeah. Okay. At this point, we will open the public hearing, and just keep in mind the same rules from Public Speaks Out apply to public hearings, except now you have 5 minutes instead of 3. And I will now call on the clerk to read any written comments we may have received or summarize.
We had one written comment from Ralph Brown, who shared his concern about traffic issues, describing dangerous and inconvenient situations in the area near the school.
Okay.
We had no call-in speakers,
Okay.
and our registered speaker was from before, Beth Crompton.
All right. I will now invite Ms. Crompton down to the podium.
This one. Thank you so much. So I am a resident, if you look on the screen, in the Matty Woods subdivision, which is directly to the right of 5417 Tryon Road. It's a newer development with 14 homes. And so some of my questions relate to the development more specifically on 5417 Tryon. But I did have a question. You don't answer questions, okay. So my comments are the parcels of land on 5701 Tryon. I don't know if the larger one to the immediate south there is the old field and community park that is now closed, or a lot of it is closed, like the tennis courts and whatnot. So the question is, the comments are some of the opportunities for 5417 would be considered for a public field because there is, or is going to be part of the area that's going to be taken away, I'm not really sure, is a big field. I don't know the exact name of it, but it has a big track, it has playgrounds, and assuming you're wanting some playground area for the 5701 school there, it also has 2 tennis courts, a basketball court, so there aren't many other public athletic fields in the direct area, and now that's going to be assumingly taken away with the need for the building and the space at the new elementary school. So I think that should be in consideration other than this other smaller middle school. Also, traffic flow for the neighborhood or for the development that's planned is also a consideration, as you've mentioned. And we're wondering as residents where the access will go to both areas discussed. And then also, as we're talking, comments about is 5701 Tryon Road going to be developed regardless of what decisions are made for 5417? Or is it a complete unified development in terms of time frame? Or will, the elementary school go on without necessarily planned there? That's my question. I also just don't know what a destination center is, so maybe I can email Heather, and she can tell me more about that later. And again, I'm not sure about the parcels. I looked on iMaps, but I have to look again to see about that big community, or I don't know what it is, the park that's associated with the property. So thank you for listening, and please taking into considerations the residents. We're also concerned about screening and privacy and noise that will be directly affecting at least 4 of the residents in the Matty Woods subdivision with the development of 5417. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crompton. Any other?
No other
Okay.
registered speakers.
If there's anybody else that would like to speak on this public hearing, you can approach the podium. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and open it up to council members for questions or comments.
I just have a quick question. And you mentioned that the town will assess whether or not we need to widen the road to 4 lanes. But even if we decide not to widen it this time, they'll still keep the building off of that right-of-way.
That right-of-way, correct.
Will they be dedicating the right-of-way to the town so that we have it when it's time?
So a part of adding those 2 segments of Tryon and Yates Mill to the planned roadway width map allows us to yes, require that right-of-way. So that will be a part of the plan and development plan
Okay.
review, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good question.
I have a question. What are the traffic study requirements of this additional piece of property?
Yeah, so there was a traffic study done, and there was some road improvements potentially recommended. So we would, potential widening, so we would be looking at that at the time of development plan in conjunction with NCDOT.
And those road widenings would then be paid for by the town, not
That's correct.
because of the state law?
That's correct.
And that study was done with these conditions for those properties in place?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So the traffic study presumes an elementary school with 500 students on the western parcel, and then presumes a middle school or other uses that have a volume of 400 students or less. So that's why the languaging of the condition is as such, so that we can kind of maintain the assumptions of the traffic study as the development moves forward.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. And just so people watching or whatever know, this being planned for possibly up to 900 students. What's the current capacity now at Swift Creek?
My understanding is 450.
Okay.
The current elementary school has a capacity of 450.
Okay.
I do have one more question. Is there any required connection between the 2 properties? Like, what will teachers or students be going from one to the other, and what is our plan for safe ingress and egress?
That's a good question. I know that there would be, the standard crosswalks required at the intersection, but I'm not aware if there's any planned interaction between those 2 sites.
Can we work with the applicant to find out what that might be, or ask the applicant? Because I think that might also play into how we feel about these properties.
I see Ms. Parker approaching the podium. She might have an answer to your question.
I hope so.
I think I can answer your question. There is not an intent to have any connection between the 2 properties beyond utilities. The elementary school's full program would be on the western side. The property development on the eastern side would be an unrelated facility.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
So basically elementary on one side, then middle or high school stuff on the other side.
Or preschool or trade school, or, yeah.
Yeah. I have one question, and I don't know that it needs an answer just yet, but just something to consider. Ms. Crompton brought up, public park shared facilities type thing. Have we looked into that? Is that something that's appropriate at this time to consider? But, we're obviously always looking for more, park space, ball fields, those kinds of things, so.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the PRCR master plan includes a park about 0.7 miles, 0.7 miles to the west, around, believe, it's the name of the trail is escaping me at the moment. But there is a nearby planned park in the PRCR master plan. I'm not aware of any discussions about, including that at this site.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Do you want to address?
I would, yeah. If I could address that, I think I can tie several pieces together. The field that the speaker was speaking to is the multipurpose field for the elementary school. and the track is our walking track and our playgrounds. In 1982, we worked with Wake County to do a school park development as part of a joint use. The tennis courts were in such disrepair that they became a danger, and they were closed. A sign has been up for probably close to a year directing tennis traffic to the next closest Wake County park. But that space and that impervious surface has to be removed in order to support the elementary school plan going forward. This site's about 14 acres. Typically, an elementary school takes 20 to 25. So that park has been discontinued with Wake County, which is why it's no longer continuing in that spot. On another note, and I apologize if I'm talking out of school, but for the property on the east, it has not yet been identified for a particular CIP use in the next 7 years. I've had some very preliminary discussions with your staff that in another town, we had a similar situation where we had a two-school site in Fuquay, built the elementary school first, and we worked with the town for them to take over the balance of the site for sort of a practice field temporary use until we were ready to move ahead. If that's something the town is interested in, we're always open to discussing flexible joint use on sites. Frankly, if the town's maintaining it, we're not. That's a savings, and if it can provide a benefit for the community in a cost-effective way for the town, we're happy to have those conversations. They were very brief and very preliminary, but we're always willing to discuss any opportunities we can to collaborate.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Sure.
If we're going to be talking about that at some point, then it's really important that we get the mobility and ingress and egress, because kids from the elementary school are going to want to safely cross the street. So if you all can take a look at that as you're asking questions and thinking about future plans for that, then we'll really need a very safe crosswalk to get people back and forth.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, well, thank you all. We will be continuing this public hearing to the next council meeting. And let's see.
Thank you.
All right. And then discussion items now. We have item 6.1, Wake County Public Schools Cary proposed joint use baseball field project. And our Community Projects Director, Mr. Doug McCraney, will present this item, and council may take action.
I hear snickering.
We love you, Doug.
Yeah. Well, speaking of joint use, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This staff report is dealing with a request by Wake County Public Schools to enter into a joint use agreement to co-develop a baseball field at Mills Park. The reason why this request has been made is Wake County Public Schools is developing a new high school that will be located on Wake Tech's RTP campus. The parcel where it will be located is impacted by an airport overlay district that splits the parcel in two, and only half the lot can be developed. And consequently, it's the high school they want to place will be smaller in size, and they can only fit limited support facilities required of a high school. So I think it fit the football field, but you can see there with Cedar Fork and Parkside Middle School, so at Cedar Fork Elementary School, they'll locate their tennis courts and softball field, and at the middle school will be located the track. And at Mills Park, they are proposing and asked if we would want to enter into an agreement to co-develop a baseball field. A little bit about Mills Park, just a little bit of background. The land that the schools sit on was purchased in 2001. It was a 250-acre parcel. I always refer to this parcel as the gift that keeps giving, because aside from the two schools that were located there, we also have Fire Station number 8. And when you hear the results of the Western Facility Study, staff will be proposing the future Public Works District headquarters on this property, along with the future community center to be located in Western Cary. And so, but in addition to that, the schools and parkland were co-developed in 2008 with the first joint use agreement with Wake County Public Schools. And what you're looking at, that the joint use agreement included 3 different fields, softball field, basketball court, and you can see the track there. The yellow lines indicate the ownership, with the southern portion of the Wake County Public Schools that were transferred to Wake County Public Schools, and the northern part where you can see Mill School Park is the park itself. In 2019, Phase 2 of Mills Park was developed, or at least went under construction. Admittedly, it is not complete. It has been delayed, very much so, during COVID. Some of the elements, playground, restrooms, some of the things actually are coming from Canada and have been held up, but staff expect that to be completed in 2023. The star that you saw previous there is the location of the proposed ball field. When the Phase 2 was developed, the budget was not able to include the ball field, but what staff did was grade it, and so currently graded and ready to be developed as a ball field. And then this would be the location of what we would develop then with a joint use agreement with Wake County Public Schools. Admittedly, when we, the town, enter into agreements, the preferences with elementary schools and middle schools, just because the amount of time is more available versus high school. But we will have at least 6 months to review the agreement. And the good news, it'll be occurring during the capital budget process. And so we'll be able to make that decision in relation to other projects that council might be interested in. And so right now, what we're asking council to do is to adopt a resolution authorizing the manager or deputy manager to execute the MOU with Wake County Public Schools. And staff will return to council with a proposed recommendation after we have developed the capital budget system, capital budget plan for this year. And I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. McCraney. Questions?
Questions?
Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, so I understand that Wake Tech sold the land to Wake County Public School Systems for the school, but then they also sold or gave 17 acres to Wake County for a parkland that's adjacent to this.
Yes.
Why is that land not being targeted for these ball fields?
There are limitations to what you can do on that land, so it's being developed as a passive park. And Betty Parker's here. I'm assuming it's limited because of attendance to games.
It's limited by 2 things. One, it's being leased to the town of Morrisville for a park, not to the school system, because it lies within an airport overlay. No K-12 activities can occur within that overlay, so we can't build anything there that we could ask students to attend. So we have to be outside of it.
Even the ball field.
Even the
Yeah.
ball field. Even the ball field.
Is that a RDU airport thing, or is that like a
Federal.
Federal Transit Administration?
It's multi-layered. It's FAA. It's
not Morrisville.
Airport Authority.
Well, I know it's not Morrisville, but I'm trying to figure out where that
But
airport
I
overlay.
believe it's been adopted by Morrisville as part of their code because they've identified the 2 classifications. There's one where you could have K-12, but sound attenuation is required. Then there's another area where you can't have K-12 at all, and that's where this is. The challenge is we have so much growth in Western Cary up through the Morrisville area. The high schools we have are full, and there's simply no available land anywhere close to a standard high school size. So we're acquiring about 33 acres to get a smaller high school, 1,200 student capacity. And Mr. McCraney's right, we're missing those pieces. We worked rather well together, we think, at Mills Park. But we worked to completion. A lot of that was Mary Berry, but.
Blame it on Mary, she's not here.
No, that one was one of the first ones I did when I joined the school system, and I learned a lot of lessons. It was a great collaborative result. So when we started looking for opportunities for ball fields, again, the lack of land that's suitable for this size is very limited. And when we saw that a ball field had started and not gone to completion, we thought this might be an opportunity where we could work together to find something that's mutually beneficial that saves the town some money. Typically with joint use, when we improve school facilities, we ask the towns to pay for improvements above standard and maintain it in exchange for use. So since it's town property, the reverse would be true. The expectation is that we would build it to the extent of a program space that we would normally build, and then the town would take over. And we recognize there's some challenges here that require a slightly different standard, but it's an opportunity, if the time, particularly if the timing aligns, that we think could be mutually beneficial.
And admittedly, we've gotten beat up a little bit because of the delay of building the ball field, and that's why we, when Wake County Public Schools came with the request, we definitely wanted to consider it. So
Who's beating you up?
just some of the citizens in the area.
Okay.
I don't need to
Just trying to
name-
figure out
I don't need to
where-
name names.
Okay, so citizens are unhappy that you haven't built this yet, or we haven't built this yet.
Yeah, we received comments.
Okay, I mean, completely frank, this is less than ideal. I don't love it. I fly into cities all over the place, and I fly right over ball fields. So I guess maybe they got grandfathered in, and before the FAA decided to put this kind of restriction, or it's an RDU restriction, but I don't understand why, because it's not literally next to the runway.
I don't
Yeah.
think, I think it's an important question that we should research and not try to guess.
Yeah,
I'm curious myself as to the original origin
it
of
seems like
that.
something we ought
I
to
know
push
it's,
on a little bit.
It's a very real issue in my household, so I hear about it all the time. But, how, big of a deal and an obstacle that is for Morrisville
Yeah.
in dealing with it. And this is, we're being impacted by it now too.
Well, I have no problem with us having a joint relationship with Wake County on this ball field at Mills Park. I have no problem with that. I just put myself in the shoes of the parent whose child is on the baseball team and now has to travel, 2.5, 3, 4 miles? What is it?
It's
Oh, it's-
about 8 miles.
Oh, 8
8
miles,
miles.
yeah.
Oh, it's about a
yeah,
30
that's
It's a
very,
10
yeah.
25-minute,
10-minute.
well, without traffic.
Yeah,
I checked on Waze, it's 10 to 15.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the way
that's
Doug
rough.
drives.
I told you that,
so
Doug.
I think it's a workaround, but I think that it shouldn't be our ultimate solution. I really do think that the county and the municipalities ought to be working together to kind of push on this one and try to see if we can get these requirements moved in some way, and even if it requires involving our federal legislators to assist with us.
I think part of the challenge our board is facing is that when you have these requirements that have gone in that note safety and sound, changing the requirement doesn't change the fact that the number of flights at RDU are still going down the same paths. So if nothing has changed with the risk of safety and nothing has changed with the sound, how does changing a regulation make it safer for kids? So it's a difficult
Yeah, and I just,
knot to untangle, and we're happy. to-
I understand that, I just seriously don't, I don't think that it's really a risk to these children. I mean, look at it, Leesville, what is it, Leesville Elementary School or Middle School that is, I often fly in over that one. So if it's okay for them, why is it not okay for this one? There's no logic here, so I just think that we need to push on this a little bit.
Well, we'll
It's
get,
good comments, but it's not really germane to the particular request that we're
I
considering.
think if we don't talk about it now, when does it get talked about?
And that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So-
And I appreciate the concern and the desire
Yeah.
and what we could or maybe should do on
Yeah.
the other piece of land.
Well, that's what I said, I mean, I think that this is acceptable, it's not ideal, and we ought to be looking at alternatives.
we brought this forward technically, because it's, as we've noted, you're not voting to approve a ball field tonight. But since the other governing bodies were having to take a vote, I wanted to have it match here on this end, so brought it forward voluntarily so you could have this conversation. So it has a lot of obstacles in front of it, and that included. So this just allows us to explore it
Okay.
and make you aware.
Where else do I know we have Green Hope Elementary where we have a partnership with Castle. Where else do we have partnerships for facilities with Wake County Public School System?
We have 10 or 15. We have a joint use agreement with, I've got to touch, Cary Art Center with Middle Creek.
No, I mean recreation, outdoor recreation.
Middle Creek, we do, Green Hope High, Green Hope Elementary.
Where we own the property and they lease it from us? Is that what, Is that what
Well,
we're
like the
talking
tennis
about here?
centers, you're saying for like Green Hope High
Well,
School, it's the tennis
The
centers.
Cary Tennis Park actually is a great example where,
Well, they use it, but it's a town facility that we built that's open up to the entire public. Is that the same as this
It-
baseball
well,
field
the-
would be?
The initial phase of the 8 courts, actually, I think was on their land, you know what I mean? So it's not exactly, Ms. Brooks, I'll have to go back and look at all the different.
That would be great to
But we
know,
have a
just some
number of them.
examples.
And I believe joint use will be a discussion during the quarterly upcoming, you know, as far as the legislative update. So we'll have some information about that, okay?
Yeah, I would love for you to be able to just give us some examples that kind of align to what you're presenting here so that we can look, because we often get complaints, as an example, from Green Hope Elementary parents who want to use the field because it's
Yeah.
public field, but Castle rents it, right? And they can't play soccer, or the, volleyball courts, right? That are right there, and they can't use it. So we'd want to be really clear what we're signing up for.
Definitely. And when we come back, we'll do that. I mean, I acknowledge that the hours of use become a little more problematic with a high school versus elementary or middle school. And so that's one of the things that the park staff will be looking closely at, in addition to the capital improvement impact, for the project. So there's a number of issues, as Mr. Stiegel mentioned, that we'll be looking at when we come back to report.
Yeah, especially since we have baseball fields just down the road at USA Baseball, right? So you want to be able to explain to our citizens why we're doing that again.
Right, right.
Just a question for clarification, then I guess a comment. You know, originally the town planned to build this ball field.
Yes,
Okay. And we financially, budgetarily came up a little short, had to put it on pause. We graded it knowing we were still going to build the ball field.
right.
And now we're potentially looking to partner with the school system to have them build the ball field and us kind of,
The partnership could be that we build it, and they pay their portion of it. They could build it. That's something to be decided.
but ultimately we're
Partnering.
deciding to whether or not continue our plans to build it, manage it, and have it for our citizens, or partner with the school system, and it's a shared use, and sometimes students get access and
Yes.
the public can't, and then sometimes the public can.
And the thing that we will all have to decide is that Ms. Parker mentioned that parking lot, restroom, a certain level of standard of a high school, Wake County Public School field, they will cover, right? And then we have our standard, which is going to be above that.
Oh, no.
The question, though, is when you look at those two things, is it worth it, given the potential time constraints? And I think the staff's feeling was, at least initially, it's going to be a number of years before we got to this, and it was worth looking into to see if this is something that we wanted to jumpstart and get done earlier for the citizens versus waiting another 5 years or whatever we think it might take, okay?
I agree it's worth looking into. I'm just not sure, after you've looked into it and you've all discussed for the next however many months, does it come back to us again for a
Yes,
final
either,
decision?
either as part of the capital budget process review or whatever.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem France, it's a little unorthodox because typically when we're asking, almost uniformly, when we're asking you to vote on something, we're making a recommendation. We may not recommend it.
Understood. We're
And
just-
so we would have to then in kind formalize that with you somehow.
Gotcha, because it's
Yeah.
just, the staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the manager or the deputy to execute an MOU with the school system, so
Yep.
we get another check-in before that,
Oh, yes.
any official decision is made.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Because I appreciate the budgetary concerns and trying to do more with less. But at the same time, I'm struggling with going from something that we promised solely for our citizens to something that now is, well, you get it sometimes. Regardless of who pays for it, So that's what I'm, struggling with just a little bit. As I mentioned in the previous case, love shared agreements, love looking for ways to, kill two birds with one stone kind of thing. How can we work with the school system and the town to meet all of our goals? But I hate making a promise and then it changes, And I totally agree with what you're saying. I think the flight overlay thing is stupid. I mean, it's like if you're on this side of the street, you might be killed by a plane, but if you're on this side of the street, it's never going to happen. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
so, but definitely conversations for,
yeah, just needs to be said.
and I appreciate it.
And I'm kind of surprised we're not hearing more pushback about it.
So what do we do about this then?
Well, we can authorize our manager to do something.
Can I ask for one other point of clarification?
Please.
The imagery made it appear that it was going to be a multi-sport field.
Yes.
Is that the intention?
When we got into the master plan, to try to get as much use out of the field, it was part of the plan to have a multi-purpose field in the outfield, which we've never done before, in addition to a baseball field. It'll be one of the things we'll look at in terms of cost, okay? Because it does raise the cost. We had also proposed putting in artificial turf, and all that'll be looked at. If it comes between not doing it because we can't afford it because of the multi-purpose field, but we can as a pure baseball field, then we might come back to council and recommend that. And what we may do is you may have a couple options, you know what I mean? But that was good that you picked up on that. I should have pointed that out because it had the lines of it as a multi-purpose field.
I personally think that's a better use of precious land at this point than,
And that's why it was recommended that. But it did really increase the cost of the field, so.
What's ballpark estimate for the ballpark?
A couple years ago, and of course, things have changed. It was, I will say, $3.5 million.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay?
that's without turf or with turf?
That was with turf, okay?
To carry standards.
It's to carry standards. And that was a couple years ago. So we have not that's one of the things we'll be doing over the next few months, is looking at that, the current costs based on inflation and everything else.
I get it, everything's costing more right now, but
Would that price point give us a field? What popped into my head was the Middle Creek facilities with the turf.
Yeah,
So it'd be similar in quality
yeah. In
to
fact,
that.
Mills Park, of the 3 fields that we have, we currently, under the current joint use agreement, one of those is artificial turf. The difference in Middle Creek, it's 2 fields. So it won't, this would be one large
One.
soccer field.
And the problem before, I mean, certainly finances were an issue, but to your point, baseball is expensive because single purpose, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
If that's $5 million for multi-purpose, and not, don't hold me to that number, it makes a lot more sense. So, I just say this delicately, we're really far from recommending a baseball field at this point. But since their processes required them to formally, I don't quite get why government makes their people adopt a resolution for them to talk, but we don't do that, but here, just have parity. And raises awareness of the issue too, which I think is good. Because although there's been a lot of successes that we've done with the school system, and no one in the world knows us better than Betty, I do think that there's a lot more potential to enhance that in many, many other areas. And so expect that I don't think we'll be limiting this conversation to just this one issue, seeing how we can continue to expand that. And there's always, room to grow in that area. So,
Definitely.
okay.
If I may, I just appreciate the consideration by giving this a bit of a priority to let staff look at it in the coming months. If we do our best work and it doesn't work out, we're going to need as much time as we can to find an alternate solution. This is planned to go to design in 2024, so we've got a little bit of time and not a lot. And we want to be sure that when we bring in a designer for a high school, they've got the full scope of work ready to go and the sites that they're going to use. So thank you for your willingness to consider it. And of course, we appreciate Manager Stiegel and his staff and Doug.
Yeah.
We love Doug, but he gets beat up a lot,
We love Doug too.
not just by our citizens.
Doing a
All right,
motion.
we've had good discussion. We do have a staff recommendation. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution authorizing the manager or deputy manager to execute an MOU with Wake County Public School System.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. McCraney and Ms. Parker. Really appreciate it. All right, and I think that's our business. We don't have a closed session?
No closed session.
They're not breaking you in like that, huh?
Nope.
All right, we'll see no other business at this time. I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website